Okay, so at this point, we can get our game of life to work. We can step through it. So let's actually get it to play. And the way that we're going to do that is that we're going to have a set timeout function that's going to end up calling itself. And again, we're going to end up being in a situation where we have to deal with the context here. So this is going to be play button. So let's do a little copy and paste here. We'll call this play. And we're going to bind it here. We'll say play function. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to step, and we're just going to continue to step. So there's two different ways that you could end up. There's a couple of different ways that you could handle this. I think one way to do this is to do a set timeout. We could do something like this, not this, but we could say window set timeout. So set timeout is something that just calls a function at some point in the future, and it calls it based on a number of milliseconds. So just as a intro here, I do console.log. Hello. We're going to see that when I click on play, this comes up in a second. And what you can do with this is that if we were to say, now we lose our context here. If I was to say this dot step, and I say play, and I wait a second, I get an error because the context within this, again, this is not, we can't control this. Well, I mean, we could control it if we ended up, we could control it with context. So one thing we could do here, now, so the Windows set timeout is a method. It's going to be kind of tricky, I think, to do this. One sort of trick that you could use, this is not that uncommon, is to create a variable once you get in here and say that equals this. So by closure, that is going to end up pointing to our game of life object. And now we could say that step. So if we reload this, and we click on play, in 1 second, we'll get a change here. And another thing we could do here is so this will end up stepping here, and we could go over here and just tell it to play again. So that now, again, this is going to be fairly slow. Screwing myself up. Let's see if I get this to work. All right, so we don't have a way to stop it. I'm going to reload this and give myself something random. I could have actually done that before. And I'm going to tell it to play. And it's going to be fairly slow here, which is not great. But we could change this and make this go every 5 seconds, 0.5 seconds, reset random, and we could end up playing. And there's a couple of things that you could do here. You could do things by altering the speed. You could do things and determine whether or not on successive passes anything has changed. And if nothing ends up changing, you could just basically kill this thing. And then one thing that's happening here is that this is just continuing to play. You could have the ability to set a timeout. The same way that you set a timeout, you could clear a timeout. Another thing you could do here is instead of doing set timeout, you could say set interval. And what this will do is that instead of having to call play again, it'll step through this every 0.5 seconds. So if I reset random and I play it, it should do the same thing that it was doing before. Again, we can put some stuff into clear the interval, but you know what? It's getting a little bit late on my side. I want to sort of get this done and get a little bit of our node lecture in as well. So let me stop this.